Alright, so today we need to talk about Duran again, but this time not just about his concept or the speculation that's been floating around for months, but his full leaked kit. Yeah, the one that's been causing absolute chaos across Reddit, Tiba, and Discord. Some people are calling it the most disappointing kit reveal in months, while others are cautiously optimistic, saying it could still turn out strong if the numbers or restrictions change in beta. So in this video, I want to break down everything we've learned about Duran's full kit, how it actually works, why the community is reacting the way it is, and what this might mean for the game's direction going forward. Buy 6,480 Genesis crystals with 6.0 limited pack for only $79 at lootbar.gg. Returning users can also grab an extra coupon for up to 5% off. Link in the description. Let's start with the basics. According to the new round of leaks, Duran is a pyro sword user whose gameplay revolves around off-field pyro damage and elemental resistance reduction. On paper, that sounds amazing. We're talking about consistent pyro application similar to Xiangling's Pyro Nado, but with extra utility baked in. He reportedly reduces hydropyro and animo resistance, which theoretically makes him useful in a wide range of teams. That kind of multi-element RES reduction is something we haven't really seen since Viridescent Venerer, so the idea of a pyro character that helps buff both hydro and anemo teammates sounds pretty new and potentially powerful. But here's where things start to get messy. The leaked text also claims that a lot of Duran's power, and even the effects of his signature weapon, are locked behind Hexenzirkel synergy. In other words, his abilities scale or activate more effectively if you have certain characters like Mona, Klee, Albedo, Venti, or even Wanderer in your team. And as you can imagine, the community was not happy about that. Players immediately started calling it character-locked design, or jokingly racist passives, because it basically rewards you for having a specific lore-based group rather than just good elemental synergy. Now, if you're newer to Genshin or not familiar with this group, the Hexenzirkel is the witch circle that includes characters like Alice, Mona, and some we haven't met yet, like Nicole. Lore-wise, it makes sense for Duran to be associated with them since he's kind of tied into their experiments and history. But making that connection part of his gameplay mechanics feels like a step too far for a lot of players. It reminds many of the faction-locked systems from other Hoyoverse titles, especially Zenless Zone Zero, where characters from the same faction get unique bonuses. For Genshin, a game that's always been about mixing and matching characters from any nation or theme, this feels restrictive, like the devs are slowly pushing the game toward pre-built lore teams, instead of the open-ended creativity we used to have. And you can see that frustration everywhere. One of the top upvoted comments on Reddit basically said, "I'm so tired of having to pull 2 5-stars just to make one work properly." Others called it the anti-fun direction, or the death of free team building. There's also a sense of burnout from veteran players who remember the same kind of promise every time a pyro unit leaks. Better than Xiangling, the new Bennett, and so on. And then it never really pans out. You see that tone in the reactions too. People are quoting things like, "Yeah, sure, better than Xiangling, we've heard that before." Or, "Wake me up when someone actually power creeps Bennett." To be fair though, not all the feedback is negative. Some players are still holding out hope that this is an early version of the kit and that we'll see beta adjustments before release. Others think that if his energy cost is reasonable and his internal cooldown on pyro application is short, he could still be a fantastic off-field sub-DPS, basically a 5-star Xiangling with better scaling and flexibility. And I get that optimism. We've seen characters like Navia or Citlali start off underwhelming in leaks and then become much better once the full beta hit. So it's not impossible for Duran to still land well-balanced, especially since his kit conceptually fills a hole we've had for a while, a pyro unit who can consistently support hydro and anemo characters at the same time. Thematically, I also get what Hoyoverse might be going for. Duran isn't just some random pyro dragon. He's part of this long-running lore thread tied to Dvalin, Alice, and even Venti. So, from a narrative standpoint, making him synergize with the Hexenzirkel could be their way of uniting that story in gameplay. The problem is, when lore starts dictating team mechanics, it often hurts the actual usability of the character. If someone doesn't own Klee or Mona, for example, they're immediately missing part of what makes Duran's kit work. That's not just frustrating, it also creates this sense of forced spending, which players always push back against. And speaking of story ties, a lot of fans have also been pointing out that this leak practically confirms future Hexenzirkel characters, like Alice and Nicole. After all, it wouldn't make much sense to release a system that depends on them if they weren't coming soon. The latest roadmap leaks do support that idea. Alice and Nicole are supposedly planned around versions 6.5 and 6.6, which would line up perfectly with Duran's setup now. So, in a weird way, even though people hate the restriction, it also gave the community a clear hint about what's coming next. When it comes to team potential, Duran could end up being a monster for vaporize and reverse melt setups if his pyro application rate and multipliers hold up. Characters like Nuvolette and Mualani might love him, since he directly reduces hydro and pyro resistance. Some people even mentioned Wanderer, since Duran also provides a Nemo resistance reduction, which could finally give Scaramouche a unique pyro-based support option. But again, that assumes the leak's numbers and mechanics are accurate, which, as always, they might not be. Now, looking beyond just his numbers, this situation also sparked a bigger debate in the community about design philosophy. Because this isn't the first time Hoyoverse has experimented with tighter synergy systems. You can see a similar trend in characters like Columbina and Duran, who are reportedly designed as a deliberate duo, similar to past patterns like Escoffier and Skirk or Infante and Fleens. It's clear Hoyoverse has moved toward more interdependent releases. One character acts as an enabler, and the next fully capitalizes on that mechanic. It's good for marketing, sure, but it risks alienating players who only want to pull one of the two. That's probably why this Duran kit leak caused such a huge emotional response. Still, there's one thing almost everyone agrees on. Duran looks cool. Even if people hate the kit design, the character's aesthetic, his dragon-to-human story, and his connection to Mondstadt's lore have made him one of the most anticipated releases since Natlan began. I think a lot of us wanted him to be the pyro equivalent of someone like Nuvolette. Not necessarily a hyper carry, but a character who redefines how pyro works in the current meta. So, when the first impression came out as off-field pyro with lore-locked passives, it's understandable that it felt like a letdown. At the same time, it's worth remembering that we're still early in the leak cycle. These kits go through multiple stages before release, and plenty of characters have turned out wildly different once beta numbers were finalized. So, while it's okay to be skeptical or even disappointed, it's too soon to write Duran off completely. If Hoyoverse adjusts his restrictions, improves his base multipliers, or makes his Hexenzirkel scaling more flexible, he could still end up as the 5-star pyro sub-DPS we've been waiting for since launch. Anyway, that's everything we know right now. Duran's full leaked kit, how it works, the backlash over the Hexenzirkel restriction, and what players think it means for the future of Genshin's design. What about you, though? Do you think Hoyoverse is really going too far with these synergy-based kits? Or do you like the idea of characters who share lore also sharing gameplay bonuses? And most importantly, do you think Duran still has the potential to live up to the 5-star Xiangling dream? Or is this just another round of overhyped disappointment? Let me know what you think down in the comments, because I'm really curious where people stand after all this. If you want to stay updated on how Duran's numbers and performance evolve once beta begins, or if you want deeper breakdowns of future characters like Columbina or the White Horse Immortal, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Buy 6,480 Genesis crystals with 6.0 limited pack for only $79 at lootbar.gg. Returning users can also grab an extra coupon for up to 5% off. link in the description.